Hello, everyone. I'm Bob Brown, the curator down here at the Fort Robin Military Museum and Veterans Memorial, a new name. Today kicks off our fall through spring lecture series and talks. And today we have retired Lieutenant Colonel Stephen E. Hackett, who's a friend of mine. Steve and I have known each other since about 1989. But when we started this museum up 20 years ago, Steve was one of the ones that came in and gave us a hand, particularly in identifying different medals. The cases that you see behind there with all the United States military medals and campaigns, Steve is the one who donated most of the medals in there and put them into the correct order for display, as well as some other medals in and about the museum. And about 40 minutes ago, he was helping us out in the World War I section because we had some of the French medals that were awarded to a New Bedford resident that were out of order. He quickly put them back into the correct order.
What do they call that? The Corda?
The coup de guerre.
I've seen his headstone in the cemetery.
Yeah. It was Frank Bailey's medals. But Steve will be talking today about the medals and some military heraldry as well. After he gets done talking, or when he would like to have, he take questions, and you can go from there. Welcome, Steve.
Well, thank you. I've been working diligently at home trying to get everything put together. I'm a dinosaur. I'm basically computer illiterate. Okay. And at night I put it to bed. I said, I'm all great, everything is fine until I get here, and it's not. So, anyway. Since I was a little kid, I always collected things. Collected stamps. That was big back then. Nobody collects stamps anymore. Okay? And you're a philatelist if you collected stamps. Okay? And one time at a trip to see my great uncle Jack, I had mentioned that I was collecting some coins, and I had a big deal with one of the kids in the neighborhood. I traded a stack of comic books. They were Westerns, Roy Rogers. Nobody wanted them for 10 Indian head pennies. I was happy. He was happy. And then my uncle gave me 2 Flying Eagle pennies, a couple of Indian head pennies, a 2-cent piece, a 3-cent piece, and a 20-cent piece that only lasted 4 years. So I'm also a numismatist. Okay? And I've always been involved collecting patches and pins and things. And I remember as a little kid, about maybe 4 or 5, and there was a drawer down in the basement, and it had my father's collar brass from being in Alaska. He was attached to the signal section, but he was in the motor pool. And I said, oh, can I have these? And anyway, they got lost. So the other item that my dad had was a patch. It was in the Aleutians, and that patch had a seal on it, Aleutian Islands. And I said, can I have that, Dad? He said, no. Well, anyway, when he passed away and I was cleaning out the garage, I saw the cardboard cigar box, and I said, oh, that better be the one. And it was. So that patch is in my den, shadow box with his World War II victory medal. Okay. So I didn't realize that, being a philatelist and numismatist, that there is an elitist for collecting medals. Yeah, fleuristics. Okay? And I said, okay, I can hardly pronounce it, but, trying to write it down. Well, my first 3 slides was going to be a white page saying History of American Military Medals. And then I had a nice shot of the 3 different medals of honor from the Army, Navy, Air Force, and then a Purple Heart. And I chose those 2 medals because I'd like to think that hopefully half of the adult population in the United States knows what they are or have heard of it. Medal of Honor, Purple Heart. Going after that, Okay? So, it's going to use those two and explain how they came to be, all the changes they've taken over the years. Well, in the beginning, to the left at the bottom, it's not a medal, but there's the laurel wreath for the champions of the Olympics. Now, by the time the Romans came around and the barbarians in the Middle Ages, there were other items that soldiers wore. One of the things, and I couldn't find a picture, it was a gold necklace called a torque, T-O-R-C, and a gold armband, an armale, and then the filari in gold, silver, those two at the bottom around the arms. And that's where fluoristics comes from the study. Well, you can see we have a reenactor, and he has some, where is it here? Oh, I forgot to put it down. Every time there's a battle on their armor, this is the archaeological. These are current reproductions of what the Roman soldiers wore based upon what type of battle, what type of honor it should be. When the Minutemen fired the guns at Lexington, they were challenging one of the biggest armies in the world, and we wanted a change. We wanted to be free. We didn't want to have the primogeniture where the first son gets everything and the second son goes off to war, the third son becomes clergy, okay? We wanted to divorce ourselves of all of that. And as always, the officers got the jewels, and the other ranks, as the Brits call it, right? Nothing. So, if a soldier was to be commended, he might get a promotion, higher pay. If not, I'm a Mason, and I have in my lodge a sword. Are there any Marines here? Well, that sword is a Mameluke sword. Okay? I see some recognition. All right? It's got like a pearl handle.
He was a Mason. Yeah, he always protected his jewels.
One of the officers in a lodge stands by the door with a drawn sword in his hand. Okay? And I had the honor of having that sword, which was from 1857, given to the officer aboard this ship for his retirement. And the crew chipped in. And after a while, we decided, rather than just having it kicking around in a room, we put it in a glass case along the wall. Okay? So, promotions, a sword, maybe a fowling piece might be something. Okay? In 1802, Prior Corporal in the French Army changed all of that. Now, like I said before, the officers from the British Army, some might have It might be the Order of the Bath, Order of the Garter. Some of these go back to the Middle Ages, 14th, 1500s. Okay? Again, the enlisted guys, no. But Napoleon Bonaparte said, no. The French at that time, everyone is equal. He made the Légion d'honneur, Legion of Honor. It starts off, it's in 5 steps. First step, Chevalier, that's knight. Second step, before an officer. Third step, commander. Fourth step, grand officer. Fifth step, Grand Cross. So his field marshals, here at the top. The lowest ranking man gets a medal. He said, if I had enough ribbon, I could conquer the world. Okay? So, other countries were taking note of this. And again, Napoleon was involved at a little place near the French border in Belgium. I think it was called Waterloo. Okay. And unfortunately, he didn't have a good day. But the British and the Prussian allies got together. General Blucher saved the day. And now, this is a first, a medal was struck, both countries, for everyone who was at the battle. Other ranks, officers. Now there's always those other funny, shiny little things that they get, but again, okay? So, we have our Revolutionary War heroes, and hopefully I can show some pictures now. This is going to work. Now here's a slew of individuals with orders. When you're talking about medals, there's 3 categories. Basically, there's a medal, probably round, and anyone who has been in the Army and was shot at, you had been authorized a service medal. Vietnam, Korea, Desert Storm. Okay? Decorations. Bronze Star, Silver Star, Medal of Honor. And then the orders. These are all the muckety-mucks here. We've got a piano player with, we chopped off Haile Selassie's head. He was the Ethiopian that put the Italians, when they, in 1937, wanted to conquer his country. The former Shah of Iran, well, that's Haile Selassie's father. Idi Amin from Uganda, okay? He's quite the ticket. Uganda was a British colony at one time, and when Idi Amin came to power, he made medals for his use based upon the British medals all right? He has a Uganda cross that would pass for the Victorian cross, except his face is on the front of it. And then, oh man, Gaddafi here. Okay. Now, many of these kind of chopped off, but these are some famous royalty with their decorations. That's the Tsar of Bulgaria. That was Prince Philip. The king now. Okay. And that's the badge for the Order of the Garter, which has a select number of people that can belong. All right. Get that phrase. Select number belonging. This is our friend Joseph, who before Queen Victoria he was the longest reigning regent. That's him as a youngster. And right here, and the Archduke Ferdinand from World War I fame. The major order here is the Order of the Golden Fleece. And from Jason and the Argonaut fame kind of deal. And at one time that order was the highest level of two different countries, Austria and Spain. And I read that and how did that happen? Well, if a king has a princess, he's looking for a prince, and it just so happened that someone in Spain, that's right, or that would be the reverse, because it was Austrian first. And then Edward VII here. Queen Victoria lasted so long. By the time he got to be king, he only lasted 3 years. But you can see he certainly enjoyed life, yeah. And this particular picture here, I couldn't get it by themselves, but these 1910, the royalties of Norway, Portugal, Spain, that's the Kaiser, that's George V, and that's King Frederick from Denmark. All right. Kings from 22. Now, we didn't have medals to give during the Revolutionary War. But some of our leaders did get a gold coin. We have, oh, they don't have them all in there. George Washington. Let's see. Nathaniel Greene. John Paul Jones, front and back. Dan Morgan. That's George Washington. That's Late Horse Harry Lee. and the backs for some of them. And that's the same gold medal that we use today. This one here was for Roberto Clemente, Jonas Salk, Marshall. We have recognized in a military section over the last couple of decades Tuskegee Airmen, Navajo Code Talkers, members of the 100th Battalion, 442, okay, the Nisai, the late Senator Daniel Inouye, lost an arm. They're getting their recognition now. The WASP, and that's a Woman's Air, I can't remember what the other piece, they were flying planes to England so the guys could be in the fighters. So that's the same, that's where it started from. But that's not really something you could put on in your uniform. And unfortunately, it's cut on down on the bottom here. Gates had in that painting, so it was a big piece, gold. All these are probably in museums. That's from the Revolution. Now, I misspoke, and then we said we didn't have a medal in Revolutionary War. 3 New York militiamen captured Major Andre. Andre had received the plans of West Point by some ne'er-do-well, Benedict Arnold. And in his capture, he was promising the 3 soldiers fame, money, whatever. They said no. And I may have... No. I had it once. It was called the Fidelity Medal, or the Capture of Andre Medal, to those 3 soldiers. That's it. There was only 3 made, and unfortunately, 2 of those original medals were absconded with in a smash and dash from a museum. So there's only one medal left.
What museum? What museum?
I'd have to look it up.
Is this the last one personally owned, or is it?
It's in, yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's in West Point or someplace.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Now, that was 1780. In 1782, okay, 3 Connecticut soldiers were awarded the Purple Heart. Now, that I still don't find it again. That Purple Heart was sewn together and with strips on the side to be tied around the neck to wear it above your buttons in the dress uniform. Sergeant Elijah Churchill made some raids behind the British lines, and in the wintertime they were on this river, freezing, and they burned 300 tons of hay. Doesn't sound like something, but if you can't have your horses, right, you know, so. William Brown, in a little place called Yorktown, led the advance attack party whose mission was hazardous to be dubbed Forlorn Hope. I don't know if anybody recognizes that phrase, but in the 19th century, trying to storm a fortress, the British were great for this, they would offer a forlorn hope who could ever scale and then open the doors, the gates, and be promoted to sergeant. Usually they were planted.
Yeah, they were.
Using only fixed bayonets, charged the perimeter barrier of enemy gunfire and grenades and drove the British from the fortified position, and the assault lasted less than 15 minutes. And then Daniel Bissell, he was one of Washington's spies, feeding information back into New York, trying to get back into Connecticut. The border was blocked. So he joined the British Army. And in trying to get back, he had written down all his notes, but he had heard that anyone caught with anything written would be automatically hanged. So he burned the notes, snuck back, and then almost word for word, by memory, he was able to give Washington the information. So those are our first three heroes. Bissell's Purple Heart, that was all, stitched together, was lost in a fire in 1823. And I have conflicting whether there's still one. There is one, again, in a museum. And the third one, I'm not sure if it's here or not, but that's the beginning of the Purple Heart, which was called the Badge of Military Merit. Now, that was 1782. And after that, like I said, an engraved sword, a brevet promotion, until the Mexican War came around. In the Mexican War, the government said, this is for enlisted, a certificate of achievement. And I've seen one. It was a nice looking document. But it also came with an extra $2 a month. Okay? So, if you're making $30 a month, that was just for enlisted men. Now, by the time the Civil War rolls around, people are looking. We have soldiers from the countries of Europe coming to America. There are different battles, wars, and some of these soldiers have their baubles. Okay? One of General Custer's officers, Miles Keogh, fought for the Papal States in Italy and had a medal that he always wore. So, the Navy starts off first, and they make a Medal of Honor. Now, like I said when I started, I'd like to think that at least maybe half of the population have heard of the Medal of Honor and the Purple Heart. So, you have to have some criteria. So the Navy decided this medal be awarded to honor to such non-commissioned officers and I was in the Army one. To promote the efficiency of the Navy and bestowed upon such petty officers, seamen, landsmen, and marines who shall distinguish themselves by their gallantry and other seaman-like qualities during the war. Now that's kind of, what does it really mean? Okay? And then the Army did, again, similar just the next year. And again, distinguished themselves in battle, but who knows? So, some are easy to see. There was one soldier in the U.S. Army during the Civil War who earned 2 Medals of Honor. And what he did on his horse, he charged the enemy and he captured their flag. And that was a big deal because it was a flag you fixed around it that was automatic. And he did it twice in the last month of the war. And his last name was Custer. Thomas Custer. Okay? And his brother George, who was a brevet general in the Michigan Cavalry, used to get very upset at functions where you're in your dress uniform and he would say, "Oh, he's wearing his 2 baubles again." Okay? So he was the only soldier to get 2 Medals of Honor. Now that's, like I said, that's a no-brainer. If you do that, and probably I would equate that from World War II onward, an automatic Medal of Honor, driving yourself over a live grenade. That's, who's going to argue that? Okay. So, come on. It was working before. History. I'm sorry about this. Now, the Civil War had in the Navy a couple of sailors that had 2 Medals of Honor. And those were basically water tenders in steam and trying to boil the things where things blew up. We had 2 soldiers in the Indian Wars that received the Medal of Honor, and 1 that had a Civil War, Indian War. So there were like 12 that had 2. The Medal of Honor had gone through some changes because different organizations making their own medals that were very similar. If you've heard of the Grand Army of the Republic, it was very confusing. So in 1896, they changed the ribbon. Okay. So it would be somewhat different from that. And up until that time, that kind of loosey-goosey, like if you're nominated, you get it. Some people just wrote their own letter. I'm dead serious, right? No quality control, all right? In fact, during the Civil War in the beginning, the 27th Maine Regiment was asked to stay an extra month because they had a 90-day commitment, and they gave the whole regiment a Medal of Honor. Okay? So, by 1915-16, they went through the books and started culling, and they rescinded a couple. One was for an Indian scout who had like a one-on-one with this Indian chief, and the scout's name was William Cody, Buffalo Bill, before he had his big show. They decided that, well, he wasn't military, and that was kind of whatever. And then Mary Walker, the doctor, only woman to get it, and they rescinded hers, but she never turned hers back in. Okay. And then they made it official years later. All right. And then we get to the Spanish-American War era. So by the time that had finished, we had a number of new medals, service medals for the Spanish War, Philippine insurrection, others for making sure there was a careful change of politics down in Puerto Rico, Cuba. And the Marines, well, what can I say about the Marines? They had 15 Marines in 1870 when they landed in Korea for the first time. Okay. And again, trouble in the Caribbean. Who are you going to send in? Marines. Haiti, Dominican Republic. And that certificate of achievement paper, in 1905, they actually made a medal for that. And that anybody from the Mexican War, and there probably weren't too many left over, but from the Philippine insurrection, whatever, that was our other medal for valor, so to speak. All right? Now, World War I, we have a guy named Sergeant York. Okay. I think Gary Cooper played him in the movies. You know. And he received Medal of Honor, Croix de Guerre from France, War Cross, and a couple of others. And a personal note with that about Sergeant York. I visit Gettysburg from time to time, and there was a soldier, a Marine who had a shop, and he made figurines on consignment of different people. He was an artist. And a friend of mine, we'd stop just to see him, to see how he was doing. And he was making Sergeant York for somebody. He just said, you know, I can't find out this other medal that he had. I can't find it in any book. I says, look for the Montenegrin Bravery Medal. How the hell did you know that? I says, okay. It's got a triangular ribbon, so it stands out. All right? Because there are a large number of Allied countries that, after 1917, kind of joined up. Well, I had said before, if a soldier is getting shot at, there's a medal for service. Okay? Now, in World War I, this is called the Victory Medal. And on the Victory Medal, if that soldier had been in certain official campaigns, there would be a bar with it. Well, I don't have that. These are from different countries. At the end of the war, they decided to use a double rainbow watered silk ribbon. And I have Belgium here, what was after the war, Czechoslovakia, part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, France, England, Greece, Italy, Japan was an ally in World War I, Portugal, Romania, and Siam. They sent some medical people. And that is a very rare, expensive medal. And you want to know how I got it?
You had a relative, no, replica.
Ah, yes. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, each war, there's a service medal. Where did I put that? Well, will look better on the wall, but this is what I go through. These are some groupings. Now, at one time, the Navy allowed on their dress uniform the ice cream whites that the sailors would wear when they go into town. 5 medals. If you had 7, you could choose which 5 you wanted. Okay? That's been changed now, but that's how these came. And World War II, this particular medal was given from 1939 to December 7th, December 6th. Okay? And that was our defense medal, because some of the countries are getting rambunctious. We had some whatever. So if you were on active duty in that time, you received that. And the soldiers in World War II that were authorized that get the medal. Okay? Next to it is the medal for the Asiatic Pacific. It's yellow. We were at 3 theaters in World War II. EAME, Europe, Africa, Middle East, Asia Pacific, and then the US. So this sailor had at least a year during World War II stateside to qualify, and the other ones you have to have basically 30 days in country or be wounded, and you'd automatically qualify for the service medal. From 1937 to 39, in the Pacific, the Navy had this particular China Sea medal. By that time, Shanghai is in disarray with the Japanese, and they also had, and I don't have one, a Yangtze River medal. Somebody in the room might have seen the movie The Sand Pebbles with Steve McQueen. Okay, yes, right. And that's what they were doing. Okay, so there was a medal for that. And that one is a very expensive one because it's a very short thing. And at the end here, oh, you can't really see it, but it has Neptune riding a seahorse. And the ribbon is red, black, with white borders. The Army has the same ribbon. That's the occupation ribbon. Okay. Over here to my left is the Asiatic Pacific Medal, the World War II Victory Medal, which has a somewhat similar ribbon. Then we used to call this medal the Alive in 65 medal. Okay? All right. I see you're chuckling back there. Do you have one of those?
No.
No. Well, that was first issued in 1950 during the Korean War. National Defense Medal. Okay? And from the 1954 to maybe 57 or so, it was there, and then it stopped. Then in 1965 through 75, that's where I earned my National Defense Service Medal. I soldiered with an individual in Washington, and he graduated from West Point just in time to qualify for that medal. So when he went to Vietnam, he put an oak leaf cluster on it because he had it twice. This blue and white is the Korean Service Medal. And in the Korean War, sometimes, oops. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah. Okay. So that's the American medal for soldiers who were in Korean War. And it had the connotation, if you were there, again, for 30 days, you would qualify for the United Nations. So sometimes referred to Korean War Trio. National Defense, Service, and right here. In Vietnam, we had the same thing, a Vietnam Trio. Okay? It was National Defense, the yellows with the red stripe, Vietnam, and then the green is the country of Vietnam's medal that all of our soldiers qualified for, the trio. The maroon medal right here, good conduct. All right. Desert Storm, good conduct, National Defense, and then their triple was Southwest Asia, a medal from Saudi Arabia, and one from Kuwait. Early on, Marine, good conduct, National Defense, and this is the War of, oh, I can't read that now. War on Terrorism Service Medal, and I forget what that one is. Up at the top, for your dress whites, dress blues, dress mess uniform. This is an Air Force with a Legion of Merit. Now, when the Purple Heart was instituted, it was called the Merit Medal. The Purple Heart in one of the museums had been viewed by a precocious cadet at West Point who was a general by World War I who actually received 5 Silver Stars, never carried a weapon but a swagger stick, and his name was Mac something or other. Oh, yeah. MacArthur. Okay. So, in 1932, MacArthur, as Chief of Staff of the Army, pushes through to get 2 new medals. One was the Purple Heart. The Purple Heart medal, if you turn it to its back, it says for military merit. Okay? Because at that time, we had the Medal of Honor. During the war, we decided, the military decided we need something else, and they made the Distinguished Service Cross. The Navy Cross was put together just after the war. And in fact, a number of Marines in the 2nd Division got the Distinguished Service Cross. So, the British Army used to have a designation called mentioned in dispatches. And that was put down in your other things that you've received, It might have been a military medal. It might have been a Distinguished Service Order or something. But that was sort of like the base. Okay? So we had something similar, all right? And that was a silver star. These medals right here, this sailor has 4 mini stars, okay? So he had been received Good Conduct Medal 5 times for enlistments. Well, if you had in your papers that for a certain action you received the citation star, okay? Now up until 1932, it was just that in your records, and it would be viewed by your promotion boards saying, okay, this guy did something hilarious. But in 1932, he made the Silver Star Medal. So now we had the Medal of Honor, the Distinguished Service Cross, the Silver Star. And then we had the Purple Heart for military merit. And MacArthur decided, well, being wounded for your country is meritorious. So that's another qualification. Now, up until 1942, in World War II, an individual may have received a Purple Heart and he wasn't wounded. It was for merit. So in 1942, they decided we need something because more people are getting wounded. So and this is the mini, that's the Legion of Merit. It looks very similar to the French Légion d'honneur, okay? And it's the only medal we have that is in 4 classes. All our medals are the same, generals, privates, except this. Now, but I'm really tricking you because it's not really this medal. It's the Legion of Merit we have for foreign officers. Because a general or private, if he earned it, that's it. But like those other countries, and this steps up, so the lower ranks, it would be like this. The next one would have a round red disc called a rosette. The third one would be the sash around the neck. And then the fourth would be just a large one of these and like a sash. Like you've seen, bingo, that's right. And I'm not going to go around and have you quote about, doing something in Louisiana.
Steve, I hate to interrupt you, but you are past an hour.
Oh.
And just wrap it up. Any questions?
Okay. First of all, I apologize for the fact that my computer didn't do it.
No problem.
But, yes,
Is there an active trading market for metals today?
sure,
Is it expensive, some of them?
of course.
Really?
I mean, anything that you collect, there's highs and there's lows.
So what would you say a high would be? Like, if you could give us some examples.
10 bucks, I mean, per metal kind of deal. That's, that's my 10, 20 thing,
Okay.
all right? Now, if you're talking foreign metals,
Okay.
all right? I've been a medal of the Orders and Medal Society of America for almost 40 years, and I went to a couple of the conventions. And in one convention there, they had just for display, and then they have for sale. They had the Bulgarian Royal you name it, crowns, crests, and I'm looking at that and I said, that should be in a museum. And I go, oh, yeah, okay. Someone in World War II probably got it from some German that took it from Bulgaria, and, and I'm looking at that and I'm going, wow. Okay? And, well, at that same convention, a man was there from England, and he had a Victoria Cross. And all right, there's a Victoria Cross. Okay? Only it's not a Victoria Cross.
The replica.
It's a replica. Okay? Yeah. So, one year I'm down in San Antonio doing my reserve duty, and I go into this military shop, and I'm looking, and I see this on the shelf, and I think she had marked down $100. I said, oh, could I see the Victoria Cross, please? She said, sure. I said, oh, do you mind if I take it out of the box? No. So I take it out of the box and I turn it around and I flip it up, and on the bottom, C-O-P, copy. Yeah, that's it. So I showed it to her. She said, oh, that blankety blank, he told me. I said, ma'am, you need to know your business. Obviously, you're not up to snuff in medals, but Victoria Cross is thousands of dollars. Okay? And when I started, you could see some for 10, 15,000. Some of them now, 400,000. I mean, it's just because with the British, you get it once, and if you lose it, that's it. If I lost some of my medals, that's my 5 right there. Okay?
Who's 5?
Yeah. I could get some more. But the British, no. But at this AMSA, Orders of Medals and Society meeting, he had a British Victoria Cross, and I got a chance to hold it. Of course, I had to put a white glove on, okay? Just like the white glove I put on Mickey Mantle's bat in Louisville, And he said, this is a rarity because the soldier that had this, his building burned to the ground, and he petitioned, and they did that. That was very, very rare. Okay? So there's...
I have 2 questions.
Sure.
One question is, what determines how people wear their medals?
There is a rule and regulation in the military for everything. Okay?
Yeah.
How you swab the toilet, when for an inspection, oh, you're laughing, you've been in the Army? Yeah.
So what determines that, though? Is there a general rule that covers everybody's medals?
Yes.
Is it the order in which you got it, or
No.
the
No.
year?
The higher up and closest to the heart is your top medal. Okay? That's how you go.
I gotcha.
And some medals that are just service medals, they go by the oldest to the newest.
Mm-hmm.
The oldest is the top, newest at the bottom.
So there can be separate rules then with how you wear them?
No.
No? It's all the same? Well, you're saying like it has to go closer to your heart if it's
Well,
the higher that it is, right?
that's how you would put it there.
Yeah, okay.
So if I had a Purple Heart, that would have been
Closer to
high.
your heart.
And then my, commendation medal. That's, it's cut and dry. Now, sometimes mistakes get made. One of my best friends in my reserve unit, he's since passed, was going up for E8. Okay? This is the medical unit. Yep. And everyone knew he was going to make it, except he didn't. They sent his packet back because he had an unauthorized ribbon. All right? Well, they told me that, and I said, what? And then I looked at it and I said, oh. My friend joined the reserves, you know, in the early days before Vietnam got hot and heavy. And he went to 6 months of training, all right? And then he was into the reserves. Now, the 6 months of training doesn't count as active duty, okay? So, he's in formation, and the drill sergeant comes by, and he hadn't gotten a ribbon for his National Defense Medal because it wasn't authorized for him. And the drill sergeant, you better get that ribbon on before I see you this afternoon. So for 15 years, he had that ribbon on his uniform. He didn't know it, right? So the colonel said, anybody going up for promotion has to go through me to check his ribbons, okay? And we would have guys who were ex-sailors or Marines in an Army unit, and I would say, that ribbon doesn't go here. See? Any Navy guys here? You? If you had a unit presidential citation, you would wear it on your right side, right?
Yeah, there'd be a chart that you could check to make sure you had it.
Yeah? Well, the Army would do that, but you would really have it over here on the left with everything else.
Yep.
So, you know, guy comes up and says, you got to move that. What do you mean? The chief said, the chief is not here. I'm here. And, you know, Dave had it sent back.
They throw in expeditionary medals too. We got all of them.
I'm just going to jump in because we do have to end that
Can I ask
program.
one more thing? Where are all these minted? Are they made at U.S. Mints, or are they made somewhere?
At one time, when I got my medal here, it came from the mint,
It does.
and I was able to send it to him and have my name engraved in the back.
Oh, cool.
Okay? And it was nice and shiny. Now, they farmed it out, and if that same medal, if I had one in my hand, it would look kind of pebbly and not as good.
Oh,
So,
thank you. Thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you, Steve.